Which is go to the information office?
No, the tour stairs begin, so you can join this one. Yes. You want to use the washroom before?
Yes.
Yes, so you
You could hit me with your muscles.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Not today. No, no.
Yes, so the reason why I asked you whether you've been good spiritually is because sometimes you do believe you are so happy because you've come back home and the excitement, it's not only you, but many of your brothers and sisters also share the same excitement that you do. But for me, I am a spiritualist, so my Thor is basically a Thor of so many things. I always say you're not African in India. Physically you are, but spiritually you are not happy. You're not happy because I need to make you happy. And the reason for me to make you happy is for me to be able to address to you how some of the African brothers and sisters participated in the trade. Because the participation of us in the trade has really caused a very big issue between yourself and myself. It is some tool that the Caucasians have relied on to always spread the propaganda and lies. So if that topic is not addressed, you wouldn't even understand the journey of coming back home. You see, whenever I read about that, I always say, look, indeed there was some African participation in the trade. Many of the Africans also said that they never knew that apart from the indentured servitude that they were practicing, there was any form of slavery that could dehumanize people to that extent. Because with the indentured servitude, you have rights, you have privileges, you have your life, you have your children to live. You basically live your whole life. So this have gone on for so many times. And I read a book entitled The Transatlantic Slave Trade, Landmark Legacies and Expectations by Professor J.E. Akwanda. Now, this professor made a very interesting revelation about the trade. The professor stated that 1% of the indigenous Africans supported the trade. 1%. 99% of them fought against the trade. This 99% were made up of families. Friends, siblings were part of this 99%. And this 99% have their brothers and sisters stolen away from them for over 400 years now. So the pain that is existing is not only you. It is majority of us here going through that same pain. Because in my family, we wake up every morning and we pour libation. The libation is a form of African prayer. And the first thing that my family head tells me is that those that were taken away from us, we don't even know where they are, we don't even know how they are. But we should always pray that they should come back to us. So these families, the 99% families in Africa are always crying. They are always crying because nobody brought to them your dead bodies. Because if they had your dead body, they would have had closure. And we could have moved on from that. But for 400 years, we've never had closure. So we have this pain in us. So the question is, how do we get closure? The only time we would get our closure is a day to day. For you to have returned back home. So you're coming here, you are giving closure to millions of your ancestors who never thought that there would ever be a day that their children would ever represent on this land. You're coming here today, you are giving peace to this land, which once upon a time was so confused because she couldn't account the number of the children. And you're coming here today, you are giving closure to myself and my brother. So when you came over and you saw Albert loving you and trying to show you all the love, it doesn't mean you have something special that doesn't have. No. Spiritually, it is the part of him that was missing that has been fulfilled. So unconsciously, that love keeps coming because spiritually, that part of his body has been fulfilled. So your journey today, it is a spiritual journey. Today I never came to work because I do more spiritual, so Saturday I don't do spiritual. So your job, your work, your coming here today is more spiritual. Because you have never planned to be here. No. It has already been planned for you to be here. And that is why I keep telling you that the best thing you could do to yourself is to unlearn before you learn. Because most of the things you know are not your story. And an advice from a brother to you, never tour this land as a tourist. Because you're not a tourist. Tour as a local and do whatsoever the locals does. Because your coming here is more than history. So one day I was even here and a friend from the diaspora asked me this question. He said, Kofi, if the 99% continental Africans have their families taken away from them, why didn't you come in search of us? And it was a deliberate question. It was the best question to ask. Why didn't we came for you? It's part of the tour, and you understand the reason why whether we came or we never came for you. You see, before, Assin was one of the slave markets that existed during the slave trade. It wasn't the largest of the market, but it became the busiest of the markets. The reason why it became the busiest is because it was the only market that was closer to the three dungeons, Fort Amsterdam, Cape Coast, and Elmina. And Assin as a slave market was relying on captives that was brought from the north. So from the north to Assin they had to walk for 700 miles, making it 5 months of a journey. They were in chains and shackles, barefooted and half naked with no food and no water. They have to endure that trek to this land. Many historians predicted that those that died in the interior were far more than those that even survived. But in order to even understand better, try to put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, would you make this? 5 months of a journey, we talk about 5 menstrual cycles. Many of them died. But for me, I don't talk about the pains of my ancestors. It's my belief, so I don't talk about it. The reason why I don't talk about the pains that they endured is that there's nothing that I can say that could describe that pain. I can never describe that pain in whatsoever way, no. But the only way I can describe that pain is to feel that pain because it's already felt in me. And a man asked me, Kofi, so with all these pains that your ancestors were going through, why didn't they take their lives? Because it was so much of a pain than to even die. So why didn't they take their lives? And I said, if I were to be part of that group, I would have taken my life. Because I will not have the mental fortitude to even carry on every day knowing the next second I can die. But the reason why they managed to survive is what this old man told me. He said, they gave up. They closed their eyes to say, we've given up. Death, take us away. But whenever they closed their eyes and they wanted to give up, they always saw you in their dreams. They always saw you standing right in front of them. They always saw you telling them, we are ready to tell your story, just live one more day. So they lived one more day in order for them to have you, for you to tell their stories. But all the sacrifice that they did, are we paying them back? No. We have totally neglected them. And we have totally taken them away from us. And this system of taking our ancestors away from us, when somebody tells you you are inferior, you don't have the right to fight that person. Because you know why? Because you are. You are because who would make you superior? It is the story of your ancestors that makes you superior. So if today those stories of our ancestors are not being told, how would your kid feel? Because your kid will go to school and he's going to learn about people that were invented. And those people will be more of the European brand, and your kid will feel less superior. So if we don't start telling our own story to our children, somebody asked me, Kofi, maybe I never read about Aratomman, so why would I tell my children? I said, you don't need to tell your children about Aratomman. You need to tell your children about your great-granny, your great-grandfather. That is where your child has to start from. So when your child went out and somebody tells your child is inferior, your child will, hey, I am not, because I know who I am and I know where I'm coming from. Today, when we talk about ancestors, we believe it's evil, and people have desisted from it. Sometimes people fight me, the Christians. You do fight me a lot. But I always tell the truth. I don't care what you think. Because there is a truth and there's common sense applied to the truth. Look, Christians said there was somebody called Jesus Christ, right? Do you know him?
Yes.
Have you seen him?
No.
Do you have a late granny?
Do I have a what?
A late grandmother.
She's passed away.
She's passed away. You know him? You know her?
Yeah.
Have you seen her
Yeah.
before? You've seen her? Okay. So if you've not seen Jesus, right? And you are saying thank you to Jesus. Jesus died for you, yes, he did. Did your ancestors also die for you? They did? Did your ancestors also die for you?
I think so, yeah.
They did. It's true they did. Because all this thing they did for you. So if you are saying thank you, Jesus, why can't you take a minute of it and say thank you to them?
Yeah.
Why can't we do so? Many of us don't even want to even, no, they don't even want to think about it. But put yourselves in their shoes and ask yourself, people that have fought for you, and you cannot even say thank you to them.
Right.
So is it the best that they survive for us? Just for us to humiliate them? But the same Caucasians that brought about the Jesus Christ for us to believe in everything, they celebrate their ancestors. And they tell us ours is evil, so we should desist from that. When they landed here at Assin, Manson, it was in here that we have the river that flows through it. So they capitalized on the river to beat the captives in order for them to go through their auction and their branding. Many of them could not even see the river because they were seen, not stronger. And those are the people that were killed and buried from the edge of the grass all the way to the river. So everywhere here, once upon a time, served as a slave cemetery. That was why when you were coming through the main gate, the gate looks very short. So many of you came through like this. Yes, unconsciously, you've already paid your respect to the land.
Wow.
The few ones that were able to continue with the journey are those that landed at the three dungeons: Fort Amsterdam, Cape Coast, and Elmina. You see, you're going to go to dungeons later, but they stayed in that dungeons for 3 months. They were awaiting the return of the slave ship. I cannot be there for 2 days, not even a day. But your ancestors spent 3 months in a place that is so congested with no air. I don't know how they survived, and I don't even want to know. So when they stayed in the dungeons for 3 months, they were waiting for the return of the slave ship. In 3 months' time, the slave ship did. And before your ancestors have to move onto the slave ship, they were made to go through a particular door. And you know the name on this door? The door of no return. I'm sure that door would have been the most difficult door everyone could ever cross. Because that door basically divides you completely from who you are and who you don't know to be. Because when they were about to cross that door, they were in chains and shackles. But they refused to cross that door because they knew that when I cross that door, there's no way I'm going to come back home.
Mentally. They got them mentally. Yeah. Physically and mentally now.
That is it. So when they even look back, they realize that they've lost everything. But when they look forward, they never saw hope. They knew they were going to die. But this is something that they don't tell you. Do you know that the door of no return was a direct European policy on us? The policy was, make sure this group of people never come back home. Or even if they did, they should come back as confused as ever. Just like today you are back, but you are still confused because you don't even know where you're coming from. That was the policy, make sure these two things happen. But how would they achieve this to happen? So at the door of no return was where everything started. That was where they took away something so important on us, that when they were able to take it away from us, there is no way we would ever come back home again. And you know what that is? Our names. With African naming system, you don't have a choice. You were given life assignment. Your name should connect you to your community, your destiny, and your plan. So even if I don't know my brother's name, and he mentions his name to me now, I should be able to tell you where he's coming from. So if all those names has been denounced us, where do we start? How do we know where we are coming from? I am sure you've watched this movie, The Root. This man was beaten to the point of death. But this man was so stronger that he held on to his name. Because he knew that the only thing that he got left is his name. And when he dumped that name, he has dumped everything about himself. So he kept hold of that name. But today, your ancestors' era, they were supposed to fight for freedom. So the only way to fight for freedom then was to let go of their own names and acquired on themselves their slave names. But the day we acquired on ourselves our slave names was the day we became inferior. There's a saying in our local language that the person that named you, you cannot fight to win that person spiritually. So if that saying is true, then who named you? Is your name, or is your name the name of an European?
European.
And so how do you fight them to win? Because after fighting them, they'll still call you by their names because you are their son.
Right.
They call you Derek, and Derek will be with them. Because spiritually, the name is the most important that connects you to your God. That is why whenever God is being mentioned, it's being mentioned by his name. Because when you mention by my name, I know you know me. So what names do you have now? But your ancestors, I don't blame them because they have to do something. So do you know what they did? They made sure that even if that name has been taken away from them, they should make sure you guys never get missing. So they put something spirituality in you that connects us so that we will have similar things to do. Like for example, when you come over and see me praying, I have a bottle of rum. I pour it on the ground and I call it the point of libation. You do same. To my omi, you pour it on the ground. We are the only race that does this. Give me your hand. So this little flex, this little trait, when you come back home and you see your brothers and sisters doing that same thing, it keeps echoing in your mind. Why am I doing the same thing as this guy? And that is how your ancestors tried to connect us. So today when you come and you see me doing it, now you know I really belong to this group. Because there are certain secrets that it's only us that are sharing. But when they saw all this spirituality aspect of us, the Europeans knew they have lost the battle. So they have to come back harder. And this time they came back harder. And what they did was they targeted our children. And they took our children through a journey of epigenetics. A journey for us to see ourselves who we are not. Today when you go to the States, you're going to see people like you and I prefer to be called Black American, but not African American. That is why Peter Tosh, a musician, said it so well. Don't matter the nationality. As long as you are a black person, you are an African. Today, the time has come for us to do something for our ancestors. Because the story of our ancestors need to be told by us. It is our ancestors and it's our story. So why have we sat for so long a time for our oppressors and enslavers to continue writing our own story? Because if the lion doesn't have his own storyteller, the hunter would always be glorified. The time has come for us to own up and write our own story. Because if the European, if they can write, we can equally write better. And if they can lie, we can lie better. So the time has come for us to change the narrative and tell our own story. But in order to tell our own story, a curse needs to be broken first. And that curse is the door of no return. Because words are very powerful. We have sat for over 400 years now for these words to always be on us. And this words is limiting us from coming back home. That door is not our door. We have to have our own door. So the door needs to be changed from the door of no return to the door of return. But the question is, how do we change that door? Should I just take a marker and change it? It doesn't work like that. We have to bring two of our ancestors, those that have been identified as slaves or enslaved. We have to return two back here. One to represent the Caribbeans and one to represent the Americans. We have to exhume or excavate their remains and bring them back home. And they have to come through the Atlantic Ocean. Because when they were leaving, they went through the ocean and they left so many things in that ocean. So they have to come back for those things, and they have to come through the door of no return, break that door open, and make that door bigger before the name could be changed. So the archaeologists, the academician, and the spiritualists started working to see which remains are readily available that they could have them brought back home. And those remains that was identified are those two you could see in the graveyard. Let's get closer. That's how you can see the remains of our two great ancestors in the graveyard. First, her name is Madame Crystal. Yeah, man, from Kingston, Jamaica. And in the middle, it's Samuel Assin from New York, USA. You come from Jamaica? You know Jamaican is not Jamaican word. And it's an Akan word. Yes. The Akan is just the
Connecting.
yes, Akan is you have the language for the people. Oh, okay. So the Akan basically because Jamaican has a name. Yeah. So Jamaica basically means they wrote that language in the north, so the whole name was South Africa. And Jesus couldn't understand what they were saying. They now changed it and he said it's the land of river, gold, and something. The right word is Jamaica. So when they landed here, so Madame Crystal came to Jamaica and Samuel Carson from New York, US of A. So Madame Crystal was a young, beautiful lady who was captured but landed in Jamaica as a slave African. But she never saw herself as a slave. She would rather prefer to die than to become a slave. While she was in prison in Kingston, Jamaica, she was the first female who decided to starve herself to death in order to push for the abolishment of the slave trade. But while she did so, she endured the worst punishment of her life when she had her teeth all chiseled out in an attempt to force her to feed. The pains were so painful, Madame Crystal could not survive. On the 7th month in 1830, she lost her life. And according to historian, when she was about to pass on, this is the only word she said: "Bring me back home someday." I am not sure she knew she would, but some way, somehow. Yes, she is. In the middle is Samuel Carson, the first African American without any formal education. Landed in the U.S. Navy, served the Navy with all his strength and might, died at the age of 35 years. He was never given a befitting burial. So on the 31st day of July 1998, the two remains re-entered the country through the infamous door of no return to the Cape Coast Dungeons. On that day, the door was broken and the door was made bigger. You know why? Because those of you that will be coming back will be more than those that were stolen. The following day being the 1st of August, the two were buried here. And that is why we, as a community, we don't celebrate any other festival apart from the emancipation celebration. And we do so every 1st of August every year. Now, fast forward in 2019, the first documented slave ship landed in Virginia, Jamestown in 1619. 1619 Jamestown, Accra, 400 years journey. So the President of the Republic decided to have you all coming back home, and they jubilate the year of return celebration. So everyone came in your numbers. Everywhere was choked, everywhere was packed. I saw so many people that look exactly like me, but I never let them go. No, I said, no, I can't let you go this time around. So I called them, we all bought a car, we went to the family house, and I said, hey, this is your family, you are one of us now because you look like them. So when a lot of people came in their numbers, everywhere was packed. But the Prime Minister of Barbados being a woman, I guess she is very spiritual. Because she never came, she was just looking at everything that was happening in Ghana. And she said, she had realized something that is happening and we have to change that mindset. Because, you see, all of us are celebrating the green leaves. But none of us celebrates the dead leaves. But are we forgotten that once upon a time, maybe these dead leaves might even be greener than this green leaf? So if all of us are coming back with ourselves, who would come back with our forebears? So she took upon herself to bring it. So she excavated most slave cemeteries from Newton, Barbados. All the bones that she could have, she brought them together in a beautiful casket. On the 11th day of November 2019, all the way from Barbados, and I returned to Museum Garden. Immediately after the burial, groups also petitioned that they also wanted to be buried here. But we cannot say no to you because the land belongs to you. So inside the graveyard was given out. And today, we have 500 ashes on this land. The trade was abolished in 1807, but not slavery. With slavery, I don't know the date. I don't know the date. I only know what the book says, that in the US of 1865. But for me, I don't believe slavery has been abolished. It has evolved into a new form. And today, we have moved from slavery in chains and shackles.
Yes.
And that is what Bob Marley told us.
Yep.
We should emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because none other than ourselves can free our minds. We're going to make a short walk to the river. This is where sometimes when I even try not to be spiritual, it sometimes comes to me automatically. So I'm praying it doesn't come this time around so that I'll let you just walk straight to the river. But if it comes, you're going to do whatever I do. Let's make a short walk. And please, whenever you have a question, you feel free to ask all your questions. Okay, so we're going to walk through the ancestral route to the river. Today, the level of the water is very, very low because of the dry season. But at least we could get some water in it to do whatever it is that we want to do with it. This path we're about to walk on is called the ancestral route. And the ancestral route was designed by the feet of your ancestors. Thousands of your ancestors walked this path. For them, they didn't know there was a river. It was every day being matched, gold being killed, and that's all that they were thinking. So they knew they were going to die. But whenever they are called, they don't know how they're going to die. So every time, imagine, are they going to shoot me? Are they going to hang me? Are they going to pierce me? And sometimes I just try to be in their heads, and you cannot be there. So they walked on this path in and out, and this path has been there for over 400 years now. And sometimes I ask myself the question, if you have had a chance to walk on the path of our ancestors, and you are given a chance to make it better, how best would you make that path? Would you treat it so special? Or you just treat it like any other lands? Many of the ancestors will treat it so special. And that is why I said, then if you treat it so special, then take the religion lens out and listen to me. I, Kofi, I always walk on this path with my shoes off. Then the first question that I was asked, why would I walk on this path with my shoes off? My answer was simple. And this answer is something that we've been doing to ourselves all these years. Because if I don't treat the path of my ancestors right, do you expect an European to make it better? If you don't treat your own spaces and spirits better, nobody will respect you for that. But if you treat their path so special, everyone will respect you. Because they know that you are there to respect those that you came after. Then my Christians also came in. Kofi, I'm a Christian. It's against my doctrine to do that. And I said, I am not binding on you to do it. But look, there was this particular land that everybody walked on that land. But when one man walked on the land, God told that one person to take off his shoes and walk on that land. When Moses was going for the 10 Commandments at the Mount of Sinai, God told Moses, the land you walk on is land of your ancestors, the sacred ground, take off your shoes and walk on that land.
Exodus chapter 3. We just went over
That
it.
is it. But many people have walked on that land. But why didn't God tell them, all of them, take their shoes off? But when it got to Moses, because that land is the land of his forebearers, and that land is the land that God has blessed for him. So our land is a land that we have to treat with that respect. Your ancestors are buried everywhere here. You need to walk on them to be grounded. You need to connect to their energies. And that is all that it is. So whilst you walk in here, you don't worship them, because me, I cannot worship them because they never created me. But you are here to say thank you to them. We are not reenacting them. No, we can't. But we are working on them just to have a connection with them and say thank you. Because you are coming here to know who you are. And I cannot tell you where you're coming from. Things like this could connect us to know where we're coming from. And that is why I take my shoes off and walk in this land. But if you want to take your shoes off or not, I cannot impose it on you.